let's get to this. Quite a bit to cover. So, right, Japanese temple bells, bronze Buddhist. Alright, now what I'm going to do has separate listings, separate. And let me just say that this is a brand new camera. I took this particular bell down to a beautiful shrine. I was taking pictures of it and I planned to get the sound sorted out. My original camera died. Very next day, bought this camera, went there, only to find that I held this camera, I held it at exactly the same distance as I normally would with the other one, and struck it, and the reverberation, the sound, this microphone is way different, and it came out terribly. And so what I had to do, I found I was just way too close. And I've been messing around with the settings on this camera, try and get it to work, and it happened with any reverberation. A friend of mine mentioned putting some foam on the mic itself, something like that, but I've been messing with the settings, so we're going to have to give it a try, and I'll just have to try I'm going to try it at a different distance and see how that goes. But let's see, just initially from a distance. It has it's just perfect. A tremendous sound. I just don't know how this particular camera is going to react to it. The musket ball bell. Tremendous. And the early winter of 1900 bell. Just real deal. Okay, what I'll do right off the bat, you will receive, let's see, for the small bell, bit of overkill this one, but you will receive this, and for this bell you receive this one, and for this bell you receive also one of the same size. But yeah, I'm sure I was very pleased only to find that the time I took to try and do a video on this particular bell didn't exactly go to plan. But yeah, I've been messing with this new camera, see how it goes. Alright, now I figure what I'll do, I'll put some cushioning down here. I'll strike that bell from this distance, and then with that striker there, I'll strike the musket ball bell, and then I will strike the 1900 bell. Okay, check this out. Cool. Now I'll pop that there, so that's got some like cushioning for the microphone. This way I'm doing this so that I don't end up going back and sorting this out on the PC only to find that again, I need to adjust the settings for the microphone. So, or to purchase another. Okay, so here's a strike for the small gold bell. Don't know how it's coming out with that. Still reverberating. Beautiful. That's a very special bell, and that would have cost an enormous amount back in the day. Okay, now we are going with the musket ball bell. Still going. Beautiful. Okay, now the 1900s bell. Groovy. Okay, now hopefully that came out right. Now let's give it a try, just as per usual. Okay, I'm using the chamfer. No idea if that's coming out fine. Hopefully those settings have improved it. Okay. This is a real curiosity, this bell. And this one here. Striking points are awesome. Okay, who knows, maybe the settings are fine now for this and I don't have to worry so much. Okay, this is generally the distance I would do it with. Okay, that's that. Now let's get to this. The gold script bell. Now this particular bell was made in Showa Nijusanen Jugatsu, which translates to October of 1948. Now there's a huge amount of information here. A friend of mine has translated. I've got pages and pages of this stuff because of a friend of mine came around and he spent days on this. A lot of it uses a really old kanji script, Buddhist connotation stuff, which is very rare. Few people know of this sort of stuff. And he's working full time and studies full time. I could see he was pretty exhausted over it. So I was like, mate, if I ever get a bell in future, I'll just ask for the particulars, you know, like the dates and stuff, because it's just too much. It's stuff about temples, monks' names, all kinds of stuff, different villages and makers' names. It's really tough. And the Buddhist poems themselves, who can even decipher those, you know? Wow. So thank you to him. And right, so let us, this particular bell was commissioned and by one of the top makers, bell makers of the time. Now this is going to take me a long time, but it does mention Namu Amida Butsu, and that's a famous Buddhist chant, and all the information is here. So the main points here are that the concept is that it mentions that resonating from this very epicenter is the sound of God. You know, that's what some of this kanji reveals. It's splendid to see the bronze coming through there. There's so much information on here, but I've got to get through all this. I'll be here for a very long time explaining it all. But it's definitely, yeah, it's just too much information. Sorry, I mean, look at all this. That's fantastic. To have this bell commissioned at that time from these makers, you're talking some serious money. Okay, let us move on to this amazing bell right here. Let's go with the main points. This bell was made in Tenpo Junen Kugatsu, which translates to September of 1840. Now, from what I know of another bell, I can give you the link on one of my YouTube videos, is that back in the day, years ago, I had a bell that we were told by the monks that its history, it was taken to a military encampment through permission from the monks, the head monk, in order to be used as a warning bell in said encampment. Now, back in those days, and also in the time here, 1840, there were skirmishes with government soldiers, samurai, and you'll find that up until 1868 with the Meiji Restoration. So, with what we know from that previous bell, having it being taken and with permission being used as a warning bell, this very bell here, right off the bat from looking at it, it looks like it's been hit by a round. Well, it turns out that inside, on the other side, I did take a picture of it when I had it down here. You can see the indentation of what must have been a musket ball. Now, this bell is just tremendous. It's got some amazing history that it could certainly tell. Back in those days, well, we presume that it might not have been such a rare thing that a bell would have been used as a warning bell, taken and used as a warning bell in an encampment. Let's go with some information here. It must have come from a large temple, because it mentions here of the caretakers of tombs. Now, if you find that large Buddhist temples have an enormous amount of cemetery stone structures, like things like that. Tombs. Okay. Let's see now. It have a very difficult Buddhist poem on it, with a very old school style kanji. It mentions Nishimura, a name here, Waizumi Mosaku, and Nishimura, Mura meaning village. So we've got some information here on the temple name being Kenji In, and there's a lot here. It mentions where it came from, the states or gun at the time where it came from, and whom it was presented to, things like that. So there's just so much information to get through. My feeling of this bell would have been due to the Japanese style of humor. I mean, just touching this bell, the sound, large sound resonating, and imagine being struck by a musket ball. And I could just imagine, an instantaneous lull in the fighting, and just a raucous giggle just momentarily, and then getting back to what they were doing, it must have been a tremendous sound. You'll find that, as with that bell and this bell, it's in gorgeous condition, and the musket ball round itself did not affect the sound. There's no cracks. Perfect. And you'll see that this striking point here and this striking point here vary greatly. Well, they were the same at one stage, but this one is basically untouched. So definitely this striking point here was the one that was right next to the sliding door, as this size is a secondary bell, and that's where they would have walked out with a striker and struck it regularly. And we're talking about something from the 1840s, and it's virtually untouched on this side. Isn't that amazing? So it just sat in the same position all that time. It's just fascinating. As I say, what I'll do is I'll include these papers with a corresponding bell. That way you get an idea of it. Now you'll see that with here you can tell it's gone through the changing of the bell ceremony with the flecks of paint and all that. So it would have been quite the ceremony indeed, because as some of them you see only a small amount. Gorgeous. Fantastic. Okay, now moving on to this bell here. Again, we have a lot of information. Now we have here the winter of 1900, early winter actually. That's something that was mentioned, and it mentions names of villages, owners, monks' names. Mentions let's see now, the state or gun area where it came from. Meiji Sanju-san Nen, that's that there, which represents the 33rd year of the Meiji period, which translates to 1900. and it's fantastic. You see a couple of little dings here. That means nothing. That's nothing to worry about whatsoever. And the kanji itself is very difficult to translate, as my friend translated to me, and they're in an old style, and they're quite hard to read. But you'll find this bell is in fantastic condition. That's just beautiful. So pretty much both sides are roughly the same, with the striking points here in wear. Okay, now main points here for this is quite amazing. If this bell could talk, this is just wow. You will see that in whom will own this someday. You'll see the musket ball indentation inside, as it hasn't gone straight like that. It's gone like a bit of an angle, and you can see the point where it struck on the other side. Now, due to size, these will have to go via EMS fast air, because it couldn't go via economy air. I have to build, or have built. I have a friend of mine that can sort that out. A strong wooden box, all bracketed up and all that sort of stuff for these, in order for them to be transferred to you. Sorry, there's so much information there. I really wanted to go through it, but I'd be here for ages trying to do that. You will get that information, and you'll be able to figure that out quite easily. Now that I will, if I remember, to add I have some beautiful temple incense and stuff like that, so if I can remember to add that, or if I, size wise, if I can include that. Right, that's that. And which would one choose? Which would one prefer to have? I know not. Right, let me strike these again at a fairly close distance. Hopefully the sound will come out okay. Try that again. Now, I'll try that at a distance. Let's see if this works. Hold on a second. I'll plonk it up there. The 1900s bell. And it just resonates for ages. Okay, musket ball bell. And gold script bell. Very well, let's try it on that one. Musket ball. 1900. Work with it with the chamfer on the striker, and you'll get the kind of strike that you're just looking for. Okay, that's that, and I will. Got so much I have to do, so I'll get on to a few other things. Yeah, piece of history.